This microbit tutorial is going to show you how to make your microbit into a light sensor. This is different from a solar sensor because it's actually just measuring the amount of light coming into the sensor of the microbit. The first thing we want to do is go to New Project and call it Light Sensor. Hit Create. And from here right away, we're just going to get rid of this forever block. So remember, just drag it to the left and the garbage can appears. So the first thing I always do on start is I put in just an icon. It's a nice little debugging feature that when I download the microbit, I know that it downloaded to it properly. So no really reason for our code. It's just nice when we download it to the actual physical microbit. That should pop up as soon as we hit download. Now, we're going to do the light sensor in two different ways. The first way is we're going to do it manually. So if I go to input, I want to do this on a button push. So I'm just going to bring in when I press A. I'm going to go back to basic, and I want to go down to the bottom, and I want to grab the very first one that says show number. Now, if I just go click A, it's simply going to show me the number 0 because that's what's in my code. But the nice thing is you can actually read numbers from other inputs. So you can do the acceleration, compass heading, temperature, things like that, but we're going to grab the one that says light level. And you're going to notice that circular objects usually fit in circular objects. So as I drag that close to the 0, pops right in there. So now when my microbit activates, when I click this A button, it's going to give me a light level. So right now, remember, this is just the virtual, it's 128. I can play around with it up here and move it around. So now when I hit A, it'll show me that as well. That's all there is to it. This is how you can measure the light sensor. So if you go into a darker area, it's going to measure a really low level. Now, with the microbit, it does have its own measuring system because there's a difference between measuring analog and digital data from the microbit, which we're not going to get into right now. But the most it can do is 255. So think of 255, it is super bright. If you're at 0, it is very, very dark. And of course, everything between kind of tells you whether it's less or more. Now, I'm also going to show you in this tutorial how to do this so it's automatically. So this can be useful if you're setting it down somewhere and you have a change in ambient light. But for this one too, pressing the A and just having the students move around is going to be awesome as well. So what I'm going to do for this one, and I would probably get rid of this one as well, but we can leave it there for now. We're going to grab a loop. So for loops, we're going to grab the one that says every 500 milliseconds. You can go in and change that because that's half a second. That's really fast. So I'm going to change this to 1 second. But even then, when I do that, you're going to notice 1 second is only 1,000. I'm going to manually change that to 3,000. So you can type right in there. So all I'm going to do is the same thing I did before. Every 3,000 milliseconds, I'm going to grab that show number, and then I'm going to go into the input and show the light level. So now when my virtual microbit kicks on, you're going to notice it's going to show a light level on its own. So I'm not touching any buttons, I'm not hitting A, and it's showing it every 3 seconds. It seems really fast right now, but you have to remember it takes a couple seconds for that number to get across. So if that's too fast for you, no big deal. You can change it to whatever you want. So let's maybe change that to 10 seconds. So I'm going to go to 10,000 milliseconds. And then it'll take a little bit longer for this to work. So this is how you can turn your microbit into a solar sensor. So I'm going to download the program to my microbit. So if you watched the previous intro video microbit or you know microbits, you know that if you go, you can connect it here via the Bluetooth and the USB wire. Mine's already connected, so all I have to do is hit download. All right, so I've plugged in my battery pack. I do have the automatic reading going on. I also have the manual on for this tutorial as well. But because I'm inside, it's a little easier to control. So right now you can see it's reading about 154, which is kind of average when you're under the normal lights of the classroom. But if I do cover this and hit the button, you're going to see it gets lower and lower. So that was 16, not really big. If I hit it again, there it's back up to 161. Now, if I take my flashlight over here, and now I'm going to click it, you're going to see that's 235. So the students can kind of play with the light. They can put their hand over it and test it, see what they get. So there's 0 when I put my hand over it. And this allows you to just kind of measure how much light is actually going into the sensors of the microbit. So remember, it's measuring the amount of light, not the measure of solar energy, but this is a nice little way to see where's the best spot in your school to test your solar panels when you get them.